The general's daughter is forced to marry the son of her father's mortal enemy. On their wedding night, she is viciously schemed against by her husband. Watch Wo Ning teach us what it means. Those who provoke me must be eliminated. On our wedding night, my husband handed me a cup of aphrodisiac wine. He said his heart belonged to another, and he would never touch me. He even found a man for me to spend the night with. He even threatened that if I didn't comply, he'd accuse me of losing my chastity before marriage. I seized him and forced the wine down his throat. When the drug took effect, I summoned my secret guards. This aphrodisiac is potent and harmful. Quickly take him to the Nanfeng Pavilion. Select a few suitable gentlemen to properly help my husband detoxify. My dad and my brother were secretly plotting a rebellion. Originally, the two were discussing in the study about the Imperial arranged marriage. The current emperor can't do shit right, but ranks #1 at arranging marriages. Said the general's daughter paired with the prime minister's son was just perfect. Perfect my ass. Everyone knows my dad and Prime Minister Xia are mortal enemies. The Xia family's legitimate son, Xiaziyu, has learned nothing and is just a pretty fool. He hasn't married, hasn't taken concubines, and has no bed warmers, but he has a sweetheart whom he treasures like a precious jewel. If I married into that family, I'd face torment from in-laws and neglect from my husband. At first, my dad suggested faking my death. My brother said with my devil-child personality, I probably couldn't stay hidden. Me dad then suggested running away from the marriage. Me brother said, even if we fled to the ends of the earth, it is still the emperor's land. Me dad then suggested letting my brother marry in my place. Me brother looked down at his pecs. Huh, seems like it could work. Then looked down at my own pants. Seems like it won't work. Seeing him silent, my dad roared in fury. This won't work. That won't work. You want your sister to jump into a pit of fire. After Dad finished roaring, my brother offered up a plan. Dad, faking death, running from marriage, substitute bride. None of these are permanent solutions. Your son thinks if we want to ensure sister's lifelong safety, we might as well raise an army and rebel. Eavesdropping me, eyes wide open. No way, dude. What kind of brilliant plan is that? I could practically see our 3 heads rolling merrily on the ground. First Dad's rolls, then Brother's. After Brother's rolls, mine. I pushed open the door and loudly declared, I'll marry. I'll do it. I'll marry right away. Dad, brother, don't worry. With my martial skills, I absolutely won't disgrace the whole family army. Father and brother saw my fighting spirit. The gloom on their faces swept away. Praised me as a tiger daughter of a military family, worthy of our 18 generations of ancestors. Immediately agreed to let me go to the capital alone to marry. Even explained that the border defense couldn't be without a general. Specially arranged for second uncle and second aunt in the capital to act as parents and help manage the wedding matters. Who knew, after I arrived in the capital for over 10 days, that Shizuyu still hasn't come to visit? Uncle forbids me from wandering around freely. I had no choice but to have my maid Xiaohua gather all kinds of picture books from bookstores to pass the time. Unexpectedly, the picture books in the capital were a real eye-opener for me. The domineering young master falls in love with the poor top scholar. Tales of the harem, my years with the 9,000-year-old. My sworn enemy from the demon cult falls in love with me. The martial arts alliance leader, after losing his memory. I spent my days cheering and applauding for the earth. Shaking souls, stirring love between men. I couldn't care about anything else. Until the wedding date drew near. Shiziyu's letter finally arrived. It said he'd heard I'd been back in the capital for many days and must have rested up by now. He invited me to meet tomorrow to admire lotus flowers and go boating on the lake. He asked me to meet him at Joafu's gold and silver shop. When I arrived, there was a young lady by his side. She was looking down at a hair ornament. The two of them were like lovebirds, a picture of tranquil happiness. I walked up and cleared my throat lightly. Young Master Shi. That young lady dodged away like a startled deer, hurriedly retreating to the side. He frowned and glanced at me. Miss Hua is here. I imagine you haven't visited the Lotus Shore yet. It is extraordinarily lively today. I'll show Miss Hua around. Apart from the hidden guards behind me, I could feel another gaze fixed intently on me. When we strolled to the lakeside, Shizuyu walked on the outer side. He said gently that it was to prevent people from bumping into me. but several times he pretended to introduce me to the lotus flowers while deliberately pushing me. Me heart instantly turned cold. Spring clothing is thin. If I were pushed into the lake, this kind of despicable method to frame women, my mother told me about when I was 5. I slowed my pace, and when he maliciously pushed again, I sidestepped and shoved, with a plop. Shizuyu plunged into the water like a duck. I shot a look at the hidden guard. The person behind was instantly wounded in the leg by his hidden weapon, with no chance to come forward and rescue anyone. I shouted to the hidden guard in panic. "Oh no, Xiaoxi, quick, go down and save him." The hidden guard looked troubled and blinked at me sincerely. "Miss, I can't swim." Onlookers gathered around. Shizuyu bobbed up and down in the lake water, swallowing quite a bit. "Save glug glug glug, save me, glug glug glug." Lake excursions were mostly arranged between men and women. Men were unwilling to become drowned rats in front of those they fancied. Fortunately, a kind vendor handed over a stick. The hidden guard had no choice but to make an effort to rescue him. The stick whacked left, then knocked right. Young Master Shi, who was struggling to breathe on the water's surface, was struck nearly unconscious. After blowing a few bubbles, he began to sink. That young lady he was courting knelt on the shore whimpering, "Quick, save him. He is the Prime Minister's son. Whoever saves him will be handsomely rewarded by the Prime Minister." A man nearby decisively removed his clothes in preparation. "You should have said so earlier. If you'd said so, he wouldn't have swallowed this much water." Before long, the person was fished out onto the shore. The thin shirt clung damply to the body. The great figure won waves of cheers from quite a few people. I stepped forward, mustering all my strength. One slap on the left, one slap on the right. Young Master Shi, wake up." Still completely lifeless. The big man sighed. "My master said, if a person can't cough up water, pressing will do, but if pressing doesn't work, you need to blow air mouth to have a slim chance." The onlookers discussed among themselves. "Ah, there is such a weird method," I urged. "Then hurry up." The big man refused. "No way, I haven't married my wife yet. If I do such a thing in broad daylight with everyone watching, I'll end up a bachelor." Summoning chimed in. "Oh, come on, hurry up. If you don't blow air soon, he'll really stop breathing." I reluctantly pulled out a stack of banknotes, and then a beggar stood up. He flashed his yellow teeth and took a deep breath. He blew into Shizuyu's mouth. Instantly, Shizuyu's cheeks puffed up round. The young ladies and young wives whispered among themselves. If it were a girl, she'd probably have to marry him in gratitude. Yeah, lying on the ground with clothes disheveled, and even getting kissed. TSK. But this young Master Shia, son of Minister Shia, is already engaged. Is that woman crying on the side his lover? Hey, all she does is cry. This young lady holding the banknotes is the decisive one. When young Master Shia wakes up, how many times will he have to rinse his mouth to forget today's incident? Shizuyu slowly opened his eyes and spat out a few mouthfuls of water. The beggar smacked his lips. He is alive, really kissed him back to life. Everyone burst into laughter. Shizuyu, breathing weakly, saw me standing to the side completely unharmed, and a flash of vicious light passed through his eyes. I leaned over to rub it in. Young Master Shia has finally awakened. All thanks to this fellow giving you mouth-to-mouth resuscitation. A bold young lady said after the fact. If I'd known, I would have gone up there myself. Kissing him in public like that, he'd have to marry me whether he wanted to or not. The Shia family servants who arrived late heard this, and their faces all looked rather unpleasant. After hoisting Shizuyu onto the carriage, they quickly left. I watched the carriage and had a sudden inspiration. Xiaoxi, go to the bookshop and tell the owner about today's events. Have him write a storybook called Handsome Beggar and Noble Young Master's Love at First Kiss. It is sure to be a huge hit. The bookshop owner also knew how to capitalize on trending topics. He finished conceptualizing it overnight, and within 3 days storytellers were already telling it with great emotion and flying spittle in tea-houses and taverns. When I secretly slipped in to listen, I even ran into quite a few spectators from that day. That beggar really lucked out. Didn't get himself a wife, but got to kiss a man first. The way he was so eager at the time, he puffed up young Master Shi's cheeks. Yes, Kate, if they could make this into a stage play, I'd pay money to watch it. A loud bang came from the private room next door. The beaded curtain swayed, and the person in question, Shizuyu, stormed out with a flushed, flustered face, fuming with anger. After just 2 steps, seeing my gleeful expression, he ground his teeth in hatred. "What are you doing here?" I acted coy, but my voice was loud. "Oh, my young master you are here to listen to the storytelling too. That girl who was with you that day promised reward money to the little beggar, and I paid it in advance. Are you here to pay me back? Oh my, between you and me, there is no need to be so formal." Among the crowd listening to the storytelling, scattered whispers of discussion arose. Teske. So this Miss Lin, with such a gap in status, probably doesn't have the fortune to enter the Shi family. Summoning like her, keeping as a mistress is enough. Miss Lin behind him, hearing this, let tears of grievance slide down her face. Shizuyu hurriedly consoled her in a low voice. "Yingjing, in this life, I will never let you down. You must trust me. In the future, I will definitely marry you as my legitimate wife, and won't let you suffer even the slightest grievance from others." This was a declaration of war against me. The lakeside rendezvous hadn't gone as he wished. After the marriage, surely this love-brained fool must have other big moves waiting for me. I just didn't expect it. He would pull such an underhanded trick on our wedding night. On our wedding night, I sat upright on the marriage bed, the phoenix crown and ceremonial robe weighed down on my neck until it ached. The clamour outside gradually subsided, and footsteps approached from far to near. With a creak, the door opened under the bridal veil. The first thing that came into view was a pair of brocade wedding boots, followed by a pair of rough cloth shoes. Me heart turned cold. When the veil was lifted, the scene before me made my eyes freeze instantly. Shizuyu stood before me in bright red wedding robes. Beside him stood a strange burly man. The man's eyes were lecherous, appraising me without any attempt to hide it. "Wife," Shizuyu said mockingly, "this is Wang San, specially brought here to help us complete tonight's ritual." "What do you mean by this?" Husband Shizuyu sneered and brought the nuptial wine before me. "Miss Huo, no, I should call you wife now. You and I both know well this marriage wasn't my wish. My heart belongs to another, and I'd rather die than lay a finger on you. Tomorrow we need the bridal sheet to account for things. Otherwise, can you guess what rumors will spread through the capital? Drink it, and tonight you'll consummate with Wang San. Isn't that killing 2 birds with 1 stone? The burly man stepped forward, rubbing his hands together with a sleazy laugh. "Don't worry, miss. Wang here will be gentle." I raised my brow with a cold sneer. I'd heard he was a useless fool, but didn't expect him to be such a vicious fool. Before this, I had underestimated him. Xizuyu's face was full of coercion. "After tonight, you'll persuade father and mother to let me bring Ying in as an equal wife, otherwise." "Otherwise what?" Shizuyu's smile twisted. "Otherwise, by tomorrow the entire capital will know that General Huo's daughter was defiled by another man before marriage. By then, let alone having a place to stand in the Xia family, even the entire Huo family will be shamed because of you, an unclean daughter." I lowered my eyes to look at the wine in the cup and smiled. Husband's planning is truly thorough, even preparing the aphrodisiac wine. He gripped my shoulder, attempting to force it down. "Cut the crap, if you won't drink willingly." Before he finished speaking, I seized control of him with a reverse grip and called out, "Sigh." A black shadow dropped from the beams like a ghost, and in an instant had already subdued Wang San. You actually hid a man in the bridal chamber." Shizuyu staggered back in shock and anger. I took that cup of wine and gripped his jaw to force his mouth open. "Since husband has such kind intentions, this wine shall be tasted by you first." The wine poured down his throat. He couldn't break free from the struggle. "The rest, reward it to this big brother here, so he can consummate things with husband too." The other cup of wine was entirely poured into Wang San's mouth, choking him until his face turned bright red. Cough, cough. "How dare you, my father is the current Prime Minister." I methodically adjusted my sleeves. "My father is still the nation's stabilizing general." "Husband, why didn't you investigate clearly? We daughters of the Huo family are best at treating others with their own medicine." In just a moment, the drug took effect. Shizuyu's cheeks flushed red. Fine beads of sweat seeped from his temples. He struggled to maintain clarity, but his gaze had already become unfocused. You despicable, he said through clenched teeth. Don't think that just because you got my body you can get my heart, you vicious woman. I definitely won't let you off. He cursed angrily while unable to resist tearing at his own collar. He even tried to lunge at me. I slowly walked closer and sneered. Husband, who gives a damn about your body? Your chastity is so important. And I am your wife, naturally I won't defile your chastity. But the love poison is potent and harmful to the body. Shao Si, quickly send young Master Shi to Nanfeng Hall. Remember, you must select 10 sturdy men for my husband to help him detoxify. Don't let him leave until it is done. Don't worry, husband, your front chastity can definitely be preserved. Number, you wouldn't dare. Shi Ziyu struggled, finally showing fear in his eyes. Warning, you'll regret this. Regret, husband. You are keeping yourself pure for your beloved. Would rather go to Nanfeng Hall to detoxify than touch another woman in the slightest. Such unwavering devotion. Shall I widely proclaim it throughout the capital tomorrow? Shi Ziyu's pupils shrank sharply. He was about to curse again, but was gagged by the impatient Shao Si and carried out. The red candle still burned. I removed my phoenix coronet and silently made a wish in my heart. May my husband, on that bed full of men, spend an unforgettable night. When the hidden guard returned to the estate at dawn, there were 2 dark circles under his eyes. Miss, this subordinate has delivered young Master Shi as instructed. He paused. Yesterday everyone in the private room was quite busy. At this moment, young Master Shi is still unconscious in the establishment. I curled my lips. You've worked hard, go rest first. The wedding dress had already been changed. I tidied myself up, pinching a handkerchief to rub my eyes red, then got up to head to the main courtyard. When I arrived at the main hall, my parents-in-law were already seated at the head. I stepped forward and bowed gracefully. Your daughter-in-law offers tea to father and mother. Prime Minister Xia took the tea and said in a deep voice, Where is Ziyu? My hand trembled. The teacup nearly fell to the ground. Madame Xia also asked, Why didn't Ziyu come with you? I dropped to my knees with a thud, covering my face with the handkerchief. Mother, your daughter-in-law, your daughter-in-law truly doesn't know how to say this. Speak plainly. Prime Minister Xi impatiently tapped the table. I raised my head, tears rolling down. Last night after my husband lifted the veil, he said he found your daughter-in-law coarse and vulgar, unworthy of him. He said his heart already belongs to his true love, that he would preserve his virtue for that woman, and would never lay a finger on your daughter-in-law. Later my husband left. Your daughter-in-law guesses he must have gone to find that woman he loves. That bastard. Prime Minister Xi's face turned ashen with rage. A marriage bestowed by imperial decree, yet he dares to show such contempt. Madame Xi also panicked. My lord, the urgent matter is to find him first. Go search every private residence that rebellious son frequents. If he is really with that woman, deal with her on the spot. Lin Yingying's private residence was in an alley on the west side of the city. Seeing us arrive with such menacing force, she stood up in alarm. So you are Lin Yingying? Lady Xia looked her up and down, her eyes full of disdain. Lin Yingying forced herself to remain calm as she curtsied. This commoner girl greets the lady. May I ask what brings you here? Is my son Ziyu here with you? Lin Yingying froze, then shook her head. Ziyu, young Master Shi, hasn't come here. Lies. Last night my husband kept going on and on about staying faithful to his beloved. He ran out of the manor to find you. Where are you hiding him? I truly don't know. Last night I never saw young Master Shears still trying to argue. Lady Xia said furiously, if you hadn't seduced him with your fox-like charms, how could Ziyu disregard even an imperially bestowed marriage? Men searched the place. The servants turned the small courtyard upside down, but found nothing. Lin Yingying fell to her knees. Lady, please see clearly. This commoner girl and young Master Shi do truly love each other, but he really didn't come here last night. I said doubtfully, my husband keeps talking about his beloved. If he is not here, then which girl's residence did he actually go to? Mother, just how many beloved girls does my husband have? Could it be he is using this Miss Lin as a shield to deceive me? The mother-in-law said angrily. Stop talking nonsense. You might have gone to find his good friends. Let's just go back and wait. I glared at Lin Yingying with tears in my eyes and followed behind my mother-in-law back to the residence. Just as we arrived at the entrance, we saw a man wearing a gaudy silk shirt pestering the gatekeeper. "What is going on?" Lady Xie asked with a frown. The gatekeeper reported, "Madam, this person says he is the manager of Nanfeng Pavilion and insists on seeing the master to settle the bill." Nanfeng Pavilion. Lady Xie was stunned. What kind of place is that? I secretly laughed to myself but put on a bewildered expression on my face. The manager said with an obsequious smile, "Madam, last night the young master of your residence came to our establishment for entertainment and hired 10 male escorts in one go to serve him. The payment hasn't been settled yet." Lady Xie was thunderstruck and staggered back a step. What? Prime Minister Xie had just arrived at the entrance. Upon hearing this, his face turned ashen. "What pavilion did you say? What men?" The manager shrank his neck, but still steeled himself to say, It is Nanfeng Pavilion. Young Master Xie hired 10 male escorts last night." The manager tremblingly handed over a piece of paper. This is the bill, room fees, drinks, damaged items, plus the service fees for the 10 male prostitutes, totaling 8 taels. Prime Minister Xie took the bill, the veins at his temples throbbing. "That rebellious son, go and drag him back here for me." As soon as the words left my mouth, there was a loud thud. My father-in-law collapsed to the ground. My mother-in-law was so frightened that she twisted her ankle and fell over. I panicked too. Take my token. Quick, go fetch the Imperial physician. Mother, you stay home and look after father. Your daughter-in-law will definitely go bring husband back home. As I rushed into the Qingfeng Pavilion, crying and shouting all the way, all the guests and attendants in the entire hall stopped what they were doing. "Ziyu, husband! Ziyu, where are you?" My voice was mournful, my eyes bloodshot. Anyone who saw me would think I was a heartbroken newlywed. The door to a private room on the second floor was pushed open. Shi Ziyu stuck his head out, his clothes disheveled. His face was still flushed, and there were several red and purple marks on his neck. Seeing me come looking for him, fury instantly ignited in his eyes. "You venomous woman, I will have you and these people cut into 1,000 pieces. Come home quickly. Father heard that you were here last night. He fainted from anger and hasn't regained consciousness. Mother was so anxious looking for you, she took a fall too." There was an uproar all around. On his wedding night, he doesn't stay with his bride, but runs to Nanfeng Pavilion, Arts KTSK, and he ordered 10 of them. The buzz of discussions filled the air, and Shiziyu's face turned from red to white. He hurriedly retreated back into the room and slammed the door shut with a bang. When the door opened again, he had barely managed to dress himself properly. It is just that going downstairs, my legs were shaking badly. With each step, I grimaced in pain, cold sweat dripping from my forehead. I stepped forward to help. "Husband, be careful. Don't touch me." He shook off my hand as if avoiding a snake or scorpion, the resentment in his eyes almost overflowing. "That bastard Huo, you just wait, I'll make you wish you were dead." "Husband, I know you have your unspeakable difficulties, but I won't agree to a divorce. You prefer men and don't want to touch me." "I understand." Gasps rose and fell all around. Shi Ziyu trembled with anger. You are talking nonsense." I blinked my teary eyes. "Don't worry, since I've married you I won't." "Shut up!" he roared and tried to rush down. But the motion was too forceful and pulled at his wound, making him gasp in pain. Everyone saw this and it immediately triggered snickering, still saying it is not true. Can't even walk straight. Looks like he overexerted himself last night. No wonder he stayed away from women before. Turns out he is into that. Poor bride, so pretty too. Yet she lost to a man. Shi Ziyu listened to these comments, breathing faster and faster. He glared at me fiercely. Then suddenly, his eyes rolled back and he fell forward stiffly. "Husband!" I screamed. Fortunately, a hidden guard flashed forward and caught him. Though the position was quite awkward, Shi Ziyu was held face down, his back facing up. The fabric below the waist faintly revealed some red color. "Ah, blood!" I pointed at that spot and cried out in alarm. Quick, take him home!" The hidden guard carried him on his shoulder, and I followed behind, crying and wailing, shouting as I walked. "Make way, everyone, make way. My husband is injured. We need to see a doctor right away." I jogged along following them, and thoughtfully helped adjust Shiju's long robe. To make those bloodstains even more conspicuous, murmurs of discussion surged like a tide. Is this the young master from Prime Minister Shi's household? How did he end up like this? I heard he ran to Nanfeng Pavilion on his wedding night. How excessive. The poor bride, just married and already. When we reached the corner of Chang'an Street, I caught sight of a familiar figure. Lin Yingying stood at the street corner, staring fixedly at the unconscious Xie. He deliberately stopped and cried out toward her. "Miss Lin, please talk some sense into Ziyu. How can it be good for him to ruin his body like this? Even if he favors men, he shouldn't go this far." Lin Yingying looked at Shi Ziyu's bloodstains, and the light in her eyes extinguished as well. She stumbled away running. I withdrew my gaze and continued being grief-stricken. The effect of parading through the streets was excellent. Before long, the news that the eldest son of the Xia family played at Nanfeng Pavilion on his wedding night and was carried home due to severe injuries spread like wildfire throughout the capital. When I went to the main courtyard to pay my respects, my mother-in-law asked me to stay and talk. I planned to have Ziyu take Lin Yingying as a concubine. Regarding the Nanfeng Pavilion incident, we'll say publicly that Ziyu deliberately tarnished himself to force you to agree to him taking a concubine. Although there will be gossip, it is better than a reputation for cut-sleeve relationships. I nodded in agreement obediently. This way, the rumors about my husband loving men will collapse on their own. Mother, I'll listen to you. When the news reached Shizuyu's ears, he came limping to question me. What tricks are you playing now? You vicious woman, are you planning to harm Yingying after she enters the household? Let me tell you, don't even think about it. My gaze turned cold. The entire capital knows that you, Shizuyu, went to Nanfeng Pavilion for pleasure on your wedding night and returned severely injured. Do you think I'd care enough to compete with her? He raised his hand to slap me. I grabbed his wrist, tightening my grip inch by inch. Only when I saw pain bringing sweat to his forehead did I slowly release him. He could only curse and swear as he returned to his study. The concubine taking ceremony was kept simple in all matters. Concubine Lin knelt down prettily to offer me tea, yet her eyes and brows couldn't hide her smugness. Shizuyu must have sweet-talked her plenty. I took the tea and sipped it. Now that you've entered this household, we're family from now on. Serve your husband well and know your place. Yes. As she rose and looked up at me, there was a hint of arrogance. By the way, sister, that night, I heard that sister and husband have not yet consummated the marriage. I truly feel bad about it. Although this younger sister has received husband's love, I dare not monopolize him tomorrow. Tomorrow this younger sister will surely persuade husband to go to sister's room to complete this conjugal rite. The hall fell silent for a moment. Ziziyu stepped forward at the right time, put his arm around Lin Yingying's shoulder, and looked at me with eyes full of disgust. I, Shizuyu, will say this today. In this lifetime, I will absolutely never step even half a foot into this poisonous woman's room. Upon hearing this, several young relatives actually laughed out loud, contrary to their usual behavior. See, Brother Ziyu is still devoted to women after all. That incident at the Nanfeng Pavilion was truly to force out the legitimate wife. Aunt Lin is so gentle and understanding. No wonder Brother Ziyu is smitten. Amidst the chattering discussions, the gloom on Shizuyu's face gradually dissipated. Replacing it was a sense of relief at having his innocence restored. He raised his cup and drank heartily, refusing no one. I watched but smiled without speaking. After escorting the newlyweds to the bridal chamber, a maid ran to find mother-in-law. Madam, young master is missing. Mother-in-law was comforting me when she was startled by these words. What do you mean missing? Isn't he in the bridal chamber? He was originally there. Young master said he needed to use the toilet and left the room, but we've waited for a long time and he hasn't come back. Perhaps he drank too much and got lost. Send more people to look for him. The servants held up lanterns and searched everywhere. Suddenly, a maid pointed at the small path in the eastern courtyard and cried out in alarm. What is that? The lantern light shone over, and on the small path, a crimson outer robe was scattered conspicuously. A few steps further ahead were a waist sash, undergarments. The mother-in-law's face turned pale, and she said in a trembling voice, "Everyone else, withdraw." And from inside the outhouse came waves of suppressed yet strange sounds, as if desperately holding something back. I covered my mouth in shock. "Oh my." The mother-in-law trembled all over, pointing at the outhouse door. Go open it." The old maidservant hesitantly pushed open the door. Inside the outhouse, Shizuyu and an unfamiliar man were completely undressed. I was also astonished. The drug was administered by my hidden guards on my orders. But this person, where did he come from? Lin Yingying let out a piercing scream. The mother-in-law staggered back 2 steps, nearly collapsing to the ground. Prime Minister Xia, who rushed over upon hearing the commotion, saw this scene and shouted sternly, "Everyone turn around, no looking." The mother-in-law's lips trembled. What wickedness, truly what wickedness. Tomorrow, how will this news spread? That man fled extremely quickly. He disappeared in just a few leaps, and even the household guards couldn't catch up. Only Shizuyu remained collapsed on the ground, his eyes vacant. Where was even half a trace of a noble family's young master's dignity? Not until a basin of bone, chilling well water was poured over his head. Shizuyu finally shuddered and regained a bit of clarity. Meeting his father's furious eyes, he immediately shrank back in terror. "Lock him up without my permission. No one is allowed to visit." That night, Shizuyu was thrown into the dark chamber behind the ancestral hall. He roared that he had been poisoned and persecuted by me, but I had been under my parents-in-law's watchful eyes the entire time. He had committed disgraceful acts repeatedly. No one suspected I had a hand in it. My parents-in-law were thoroughly heartbroken. Madame Xia no longer mentioned the blessings of children and grandchildren, and Minister Xia rarely concerned himself with household affairs anymore. The way they looked at me was complicated and hard to read. Toward Lin Yingying, they couldn't even be bothered to maintain surface-level courtesy. After the morning greetings, I deliberately stayed behind and poured a cup of calming tea for Madame Xi. "Mother has looked much more haggard these past few days." Madame Xi sighed. "He is my only son. Mother, things have come to this point. Grieving is useless. In your daughter-in-law's opinion, it would be better to ensure the Xia family has descendants sooner rather than later." She looked up at me. "With my husband in this state, hoping for him to inherit the family business is probably impossible. But the Xia family line cannot be broken. Though my husband doesn't favor me, he still has some lingering affection for concubine Lin. Concubine Lin could bear a child soon, the Xia family would have a legitimate grandson, and you and father would have something to rely on in your later years." Madame Xi's eyes flickered slightly, and she remained silent for a long while. From that day on, Shizuyu's confinement was lifted, but he fell into another kind of cage. His courtyard was replaced with a batch of delicate and alluring maidservants, with graceful figures. Madame Xi even sent a trusted matron to personally attend to his meals and daily life. Every meal was laced with warming and tonifying medicinal ingredients. Shizuyu was muddled and drowsy all day long, treated as a mere tool for continuing the family line. Under the arrangement of drugs and the matron, he shared beds with different maidservants. A month later, the manor received joyous news one after another. 3 maidservants who wanted to rise in status were successively diagnosed as pregnant. Madame Xia wept tears of joy and bestowed generous rewards. She had them properly settled in secluded courtyards to nurture their pregnancies. Although Prime Minister Xi still kept a stern face, there was finally a glimmer of light in his eyes. Only Lin Yingjing's belly remained without any sign of movement. She grew thinner by the day, and the scene she witnessed that night became a lingering nightmare. Whenever Shizuyu approached, she couldn't help but feel the urge to retch. Her parents-in-law turned a blind eye to this. With the hope of legitimate grandsons who cares about the joys and sorrows of a concubine, I watched this farce with cold eyes, my heart completely unmoved. If the 2 of them hadn't used those vicious tricks to frame me, I wouldn't have dealt such a heavy hand either. Not long after, a secret letter was delivered into my hands. Opening it, father's vigorous handwriting leapt off the page. "The situation in the capital is about to change. Your father and your brother have decided to support the 3rd prince. When the matter succeeds, your marriage can be annulled, and you can return home for a reunion. I held the letter, stunned for a moment. Rebellion siding with the third prince. Here at the Shia Manor, I've been scheming and calculating, sharpening my blade. I've thought up a full 108 ways to slowly torment this hypocritical family. But now, father and brother are telling me they're going to rebel. Me head's as big as a basin. I turned to look at the shadow guard standing by the window, like a shadow. What kind of person is the third prince? Is he worth my father and brother staking the lives of the entire Huo family on? Xiaoxi crossed his arms and rolled his eyes at me, good and proper. The meaning in his gaze was crystal clear. You've been having the time of your life playing house scheming here, while outside the world's about to turn upside down, and you are still in the dark. His eye roll choked me for a second, then I laughed in exasperation. I am asking you a question. Only then did Xiaoxi speak. The third prince, Li Heng. His birth mother died young, and he was raised by the late consort Hui. I frowned. The current crown prince's position has long been established. How can a prince with no backing compete with the northern border cavalry under your father and brother's command? I sucked in a sharp breath. So that is how it is. No wonder father and brother felt at ease letting me return to the capital alone. There must already be foolproof measures in place to protect me in the capital. I've been catching Xie every day to squeeze and knead him however I please. Who would have thought my father and brother were busy forcing the palace and becoming rebels? This power struggle is way more high level than my household drama. The day the iron hooves of the Ho family army trampled through the Imperial city, the capital was eerily quiet. None of the imagined beacon fires stretching across the sky or common folk fleeing in panic. The morning market opened as usual, the tea houses bustled as usual. The old man selling wontons knocked his bamboo clapper, steady as always. Only those vermilion-gated households were thrown into chaos. Overnight, who knows how many carriages loaded with family members and valuables frantically swarmed toward the city gates in desperate flight. Dust flew on the official roads. All nobles and high officials rushing to visit relatives out of town or return home to worship ancestors. When the Shia Manor was surrounded, dawn had just broken. Mother-in-law was being attended by maids doing her hair when she heard the clash of armor and stern shouts from outside. She rushed to the front hall and saw the military order gleaming in the hand of the officer leading the troops bursting in. Then she heard the steward report in a trembling voice, "Master said he was going to the other estate for a meeting last night and hasn't returned yet, and some gold, silver and valuables from the storeroom are also missing." Her whole body swayed, and she collapsed into the grand armchair in defeat. Who did he take with him? Her voice was hoarse. The steward lowered his head, not daring to answer. A little maid nearby timidly interjected. This servant saw that in master's carriage sat that distant cousin young miss from the west courtyard. Mother-in-law closed her eyes, 2 streams of murky tears rolling down. Half a lifetime as husband and wife when disaster strikes each flies their own way. He ran off with his cousin, abandoning her and his good, for nothing son like worn-out shoes. The new emperor ascended the throne and granted amnesty to all under heaven. Although Prime Minister, Shia embezzled vast sums and deserted in battle. Considering he did not directly participate in resistance, only his family property was confiscated without implicating his relatives. The Shia Manor's plaque was taken down, and servants were dismissed. Her mother-in-law and Shiziyu were stripped of their imperial honors and official status, becoming commoners. They moved to a shabby little courtyard in the west of the city to take shelter. Their lives were spared, but the days ahead would be hardly better than death. The day I left the manor, the spring sunlight was bright and beautiful. The people father sent were quick and efficient. In less than half a day, they had my trunks packed and ready. My mother-in-law, now she should be called Old Madam Shia, stared at me with hollow eyes. Shiziyu hid in his room. Only the muffled sounds of smashing things could be heard. "Princess, the carriage is ready." Xiaolu, the new secret guard, bowed and said. Xiaohua held my cosmetic box and muttered softly, "Finally leaving this damn place." The carriage headed toward the Huo Manor. Order had been restored to the streets, and shops were gradually opening. Some households even hung up red silk to celebrate the new ruler's enthronement. A change of dynasty for common folk was nothing more than changing an era name, returning to the Hua Manor. Father and my brother were both waiting at the entrance. Father patted my head. Good to have you back. The Imperial edict arrived shortly after. The new emperor granted me the title of princess, bestowed upon me a fief, and gifted me a residence. Most importantly, he arranged for the government office to annul the marriage contract between me and Shizuyu. That piece of paper that once bound me in a cage easily turned to ashes. I clutched the official document and laughed out loud. Brother patted my shoulder. Now you can do as you wish. At dinner, I pestered father to make me osmanthus cakes with his own hands. Father scolded me verbally, saying, "A princess without any semblance of a princess," but still rolled up his sleeves and went to the kitchen. Brother quietly told me an interesting story he'd just heard. Shizuyu has disappeared. I raised an eyebrow. That owner of Nanfeng Pavilion was confirmed to be a spy from Barong who infiltrated us. The day the city fell, he fled in the chaos. He took Shizuyu along as well. What? Why would he take him? According to the young male attendants who escaped from the pavilion, that man was quite interested in Shizuyu, and even said their tribe has the custom of taking male wives. Lin Yingying, as a concubine without sons, was also abandoned by her mother-in-law. Someone saw her carrying a small bundle out of the city, heading south 3 days later. Someone came from the palace, not a eunuch, nor a palace maid. It was Xiao Sai, who had disappeared for several months. He wore a set of black robes embroidered with gold for everyday wear. The fabric was top-quality cloud brocade, standing in the courtyard with his hands behind his back, his posture upright. That familiar sharpness in his features was still there. But there was something more, an indescribable air of authority. I tilted my head and looked at him. Oh, got promoted commander of the Imperial Guards. He lifted his eyes to look at me, his gaze deep. Huo Ning, I have come to ask you. I froze, my mind flashing to what my brother had mentioned about Third Prince Li Heng, flashing to Xiao Sai's perfectly executed skills, his thorough understanding of the political situation in his reports, the bearing he occasionally revealed that surpassed that of an ordinary shadow guard. Do you want to enter the palace and become empress? Reading this gave me instant goosebumps. No wonder Xiao Si's skills were too good to be an ordinary shadow guard. No wonder he knew the court situation inside and out. No wonder he always had that unapproachable air of nobility. Turns out he is the third Prince Li Heng. All those seemingly casual details earlier were foreshadowing planted by the author. This plot twist is amazing. Peach blossoms rustled down, landing on his shoulders. I snapped back to reality. He frowned. Why, I answered earnestly, I am afraid I'd kill off all the women in your harem. I am petty and ruthless, can't stand sharing my things with others. If I really entered the palace, poisoning someone today, killing someone tomorrow, within 3 years, half the 6 palaces would be emptied. He was silent for a moment, then said, There are no others, only you. My heart stirred slightly, but my expression remained smiling. Still no. I'll establish my own estate as a princess. Keep a bunch of beautiful men in my residence, living freely and happily. Before the words even left my mouth, my brother, who'd been hiding in the shadows, jumped out and clamped his hand over my mouth, the veins on his forehead throbbing. What handsome man, you don't want to. You wouldn't, you are talking nonsense. He turned to Li Heng. Your Majesty, please forgive her. My sister speaks without thinking. Li Heng raised his hand to stop him, his gaze still resting on my face. That look held helplessness, amusement, and something else I couldn't quite read, something dark and deep. He said slowly, Within 3 years, if you change your mind, the palace gates will always be open to you. And if I don't change my mind, then I'll wait for you another 3 years. He turned around, his black robe sweeping across the stone floor. The County Princess Manor is being renovated. You can move in soon. You take care of yourself. He left as suddenly as he had arrived. Brother let go of me, let out a long breath, and glared at me. Are you crazy? That is the Emperor. I looked in the direction where he'd disappeared and sighed. If only he were just a shadow guard. Bro, you know what? Little 4 is really fast and ruthless with poison. I gotta teach little 6 properly. My brother looked up at the sky, speechless. The days in the capital are still long. From here on out, who can say for sure? Living it up and enjoying the present. That is what really matters.